I'll tell you this. I don't think anybody would disagree. There is no better friend of America's veterans and active duty personnel than the man I'm about to introduce. That alone, I think, says it all. Ladies and gentlemen, let's say hello to 4th District Congressman, the Honorable Gene Taylor.
Absolutely honored to be here. It's always a thrill. Can the young people in the band hear me? Because I really do want to address a lot of my remarks to you. And what I want you to do is look over here at the folks sitting down at these chairs, and Mayor Charlie said he'll rent you some more chairs next year if you need them from ABC Rental. And it is great to see standing room only crowd. But the message I want to leave with the young people is that they used to look just like you. And that when they looked just like you, they were jumping out of airplanes. They were flying helicopters. They were manning submarines. They were CVs in Vietnam. They were in the skies over Vietnam. And to this day, there are people that look just like you, just a year or two older, serving in our nation's military. Your mayor enlisted in the Mississippi National Guard when he was 14 years old. Had you been to the salute to the military, you would have met a neat old guy. He'd put on a few pounds over the years, had a big grin to him, so you never would have suspected that this grandfatherly man who came to the salute to the military every year had enlisted when he was 13 years old. By the time he was 15 years old, how many of you are 15? By the time he was 15 years old, he'd already done his basic training and was in the South Pacific serving with the United States Marine Corps. How many of you are 16 years old? On this man's 16th birthday, he was in the Battle of Iwo Jima. And it was a very hotly contested fight. You took a few yards, you lost a few yards. The man to the left and right of you were dying. And as he was advancing with his fellow Marines, two enemy hand grenades were thrown right in front of him. And even though he really didn't know the guys he was serving with that well because of some strange circumstances, he threw himself on those two hand grenades. One of them exploded. And truly because of the hand of God and to some extent the soft volcanic ash of the island, plus the fact that he was so strong from working out a lot, he somehow lived. The Marines with him thought he had died. They just couldn't imagine that anyone could dive on a hand grenade, it explodes, and they live. They left him behind. But some other Marines following on noticed that he was still moving, got him to a stretcher, got him to a medic, got him to a hospital ship. So that by the time he was 17 years old, how many of you are 17? By the time Jack Lucas was 17 years old, to put this in perspective, he was standing at the Rose Garden of the White House receiving the Congressional Medal of Honor. And the point I want to make is that we build the world's greatest warships here in South Mississippi, just 30 miles down the road. And half of the United States Navy fleet is built right here in Mississippi. Up in the town of Wiggins, they make reactive armor to protect our vehicles should a rocket-propelled grenade hit it to help lessen that blow. Right here in Gulfport, we build the sonar domes for our nuclear submarines. We build the mast for our amphibious assault ships, and almost every one of the boats that the Special Operations Command uses are built right here in Gulfport, Mississippi. You go to Columbia, Mississippi, and the parachutes that our pilots use, the parachutes that the airborne troopers use, they're made right here in Mississippi. But none of these things mean anything unless great young people like yourselves will step forward and pay these veterans the ultimate compliment by saying, I want to be like you. And it goes on every day. I see our Mississippi Guardsmen here. Just a few years ago, in the spring of 2005, there was a young Mississippi State student who had been activated with his unit, the 155th. He's now in Iraq. It's the day after Easter. He's driving a Humvee in what he thinks is just a routine patrol around the streets near a base called Kalsu. His vehicle either ran over a landmine or was the victim of an improvised explosive device. What we do know is that it exploded underneath his vehicle. If you see a Humvee, there's a hole in the middle where a person stands, and they man a machine gun or rocket-propelled grenade launcher. The force of that blast all went into the cab of that Humvee. The gunner's a young man by the name of David Yancey. He's literally thrown from about me to that oak tree. Shrapnel in his legs, beat to smithereens.